me in a bolt of lightning, send me on my way still smiling. Maybe that's the way I should go, straight into the mouth of the unknown. I left the spare key on the table. I never really thought I'd be able to say I merely visit on the weekends. I lost my whole life in a different. I've said it so many times.
How was the holiday?
Yeah, it was great. Danica's family was in town, so it was fun watching the kids open presents. Kind of easing into my day with a little coffee, and but no, it was really fun. You know, Matt and I had talked about the schedule a few weeks ago, and let's just say I'm glad we won on Monday night, because otherwise we might have been in on Sunday or Christmas.
As you look at this team a year ago going into a Detroit game and now, what's the biggest difference?
Our team?
Yeah.
Well, the record's a lot different, that's for sure. I just think the energy is different. You know, we found a way to win. We learned how to win. You know, guys have really embraced their role throughout the season, tried to make the most of it. There's not been infighting or angst or frustration that is allowed to harbor. I think that we're communicating a lot better. You know, just dealing with our problems face to face and working it out and moving on. I think that's healthy for any relationship. And when you got 63 guys in a locker room, you know, there's always going to be things that come up. I think not allowing those little things to become big things has been a big part of our success. And, you know, just constantly communicating through this schematics of your side of the football, and then clearly defined roles, I think, has allowed guys to buy in and make the most of their opportunities.
Is there a big change in personnel too, do you think?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious, you know, additions that we've made that have made big impact, but I think there's some smaller, you know, less fanfare ones that have really worked out for us. I think Tyler, you know, in the short term has done a really nice job for us. But I think, you know, the signing of Dean Lowry, you know, I give Dean a lot of credit. Dean came back last week, you know, after missing some practice time, after, you know, tweaking his ankle on an interception, which was a great play, and he played a fantastic game. You know, we just saw a couple of the clips in the meeting on Monday, and he was a dominant force at the point of attack. And he's a guy who just goes about his business, his role, and does a great job. And those are kind of those underrated signings that we've been doing. I think bringing back Mercedes Lewis, where a lot of people were thinking, why would you bring back this, you know, mid-30s guy to the squad? We didn't have a lot of stats last year. He's been a huge part of our run game. I think you ask, you know, Jamal and Aaron and the offensive line how important he's been this locker room. You know, again, Brian and his staff has, you know, made some splashes, obviously, with Za'Darius and Preston and Anthony and Billy with the big numbers. But there's been a lot of really kind of under the radar things that we've done that have really worked out, and obviously drafting Elton, you know, looks pretty good right now as well.
What's the challenge of getting ready with one fewer day on an already short week, not just for yourself, but more importantly with everyone around you being on the same page with you?
Well, I don't really know if it's a huge challenge. We're so far into the season now. You know, there's always challenges on short weeks, whether you're playing on a Thursday or coming off a Monday night game. You know, I think the biggest thing for us at this point was getting that day off. I think is really going to help us, you know, to be able to get off our feet for a day like that is important. Today's schedule is obviously a light one. Nobody's taken the Lions, you know, without a bunch of focus and seriousness. We understand what we're playing for. You know, this isn't a game where people are just going to roll up to it. You know, we're going to put the time in and study like a regular week. It's just less time on our feet during the week, thanks to Matt. But we'll be ready to roll, and we know what we're playing for.
Aaron, what do you remember about how Mason was after that game in Detroit last year, and what do you think of? He's made 103 of his last 107 kicks since then.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Mason and I sit next to each other on the plane every week. Obviously, he's just a few down from me in the locker room. We played together for so long. You know, we're close friends, and always have a good line of communication. There wasn't a whole lot to be said in that moment. I mean, obviously, he was the most disappointed of anybody, and it was just such an outlier of a game for him. He's been so steady for us for so many years. You know, but I just, everybody, I think, was first worried about his status. We were hoping there wasn't going to be a guttural reaction and a release of him just because he's done so many great things. But I think we all knew he had to bounce back and make some kicks in order for us to take care of him and keep him here. And he did, and he has, and he's been fantastic. And it really takes a lot of pressure off the squad when you got somebody who's so reliable back there. And what we did with the other two parts of the specialist game, a punter who has been a big part of our success this year, especially late in games with really key important punts, and the consistency that Hunter has showed as well. So having that operation stick together is important, and hope we can keep Mason around for a long time because he's that type of guy who can play, I think, into his 40s if he wants to.
You talked about free agency a minute ago. I'm guessing there was high hopes about that, but have those guys, A, what did you think at the time, and B, have they even exceeded your wildest expectations, how they played and in the locker room and all that?
Well, I think when you throw that kind of money around, the expectations are set pretty high because you'd love to see those guys play to the money that they've been given, and they have. I mean, they all have. I think they've all been big impact players. Obviously played against Adrian for a few years and knew what kind of player he was, a thumper, smart, instinctive. Didn't know a whole lot about Z. So when this, big dude comes in with big old head and huge dreads, I'm thinking, this could be good here. And I knew that he was kind of a platoon guy in Baltimore, and you watch him the first couple weeks in pads, you're thinking, how in the hell is this guy a platoon guy? But the energy you just loved from the start. I mean, his passion just for life and the way that he kind of grabbed onto the leadership opportunity on defense. And Preston, as you guys see, I mean, they're hand in hand. They were fast friends, and I knew what kind of player we were getting in Preston. I didn't know anything about Billy, but I could tell from the start. Again, I go back to the word energy, but he just had a really calm presence about him, very positive outlook on things, and body type wise, I was thinking, okay, he's, watching him move, he's definitely going to fit into the scheme where we're trying to run off the ball and capture edges, and he's been a very steady guy for us at right guard. But like I said, I think there's some other acquisitions that don't get some of the fanfare that have been really important for us.
Aaron, what does this opportunity mean to you to get a bye? You've had it twice as a starter, had a Week 17 game in 2012 where if you won, you would have had it. What do you think it means to be able to actually capture that?
Well, it means a lot. I mean, I remember the game in 2012. It was a tough one, and we had a lot to play for. And you spend so much energy trying to capture that. It was the same reason in 14 when I hurt my calf there. I knew if I could get back out there and we could get a win, I was going to get an extra week to heal, and it really made a difference for me going in that Dallas week and even into the Seattle week that year. But it does help. There's a lot of talk at various times about, especially in 11, about rust or whatever, end of the season. This is different this year because we're playing ourselves in, and we have the opportunity to do that by playing. But we've been fortunate this year, I think, with our injury health. We haven't had a ton of major injuries. We've stayed fairly healthy throughout the year, but an extra week at this time of the season is crucial. And even more important than that is obviously the home field advantage that we feel like we have here in Green Bay with our crowd and the weather and the footing and everything that Lambeau Field and the Mystique has to offer, and that's what we'd like to secure this week.
Aaron, first touchdown, really solid, blockers as far as receivers over the years, Jordy and Randall and that. But what do you think about this year's core, and what has that added to the offense with their efforts there?
Yeah, I think combined, it's perhaps the best group of blockers that we've had. I love watching Geronimo block. I mean, he's a force out there. He's done some things on his own this year that have changed schemes. And that's one of the funny things that you learn over the years is a lot of times new plays get made when guys make mistakes. One of our base third down and short runs was a play that came from the Giants game in 2012, I think it was, or maybe 2011. and Jermichael was supposed to block the end, and he leads up inside, and we're like, oh, that was kind of a good play. And we end up running that for years based off of, a mistake that turned into a fantastic play. And there's been multiple instances like that over the years, and Gmo has done some things this year that have just changed schematics because you see him what he can do at the point of attack. He's blocking defensive ends, outside linebackers at times, and you realize you can do something with that. And I think there's a lot to be said for him embracing that role. Obviously, Allen has done a great job blocking, and Jake is a very willing blocker. Marquez had a big block on Aaron's touchdown run that put us up 2 scores the other night, where he really collapsed X in the hole there and got in the way of another guy that allowed him to get outside. That's what being a good teammate's all about. That's what embracing your role is all about, and I'm really proud of those guys the way they blocked.
You mentioned the roles so often, but what's the impetus to guys buying in? Does it come down from the coaching staff? Is it a cohesion and chemistry and friendship among the players? What leads to players actually doing that?
Well, I think it starts with the vision of the program and the simplicity of the rules. But accountability is laced into all that. And when you have leaders on both sides of the ball who will keep and hold guys accountable, I think that is the ultimate measuring stick for those guys that, here's your opportunity, what are you going to do with it? And if you don't make the most of it, we're going to put somebody else in to get the job done. So it's being accountable to your teammates and doing your part and realizing, like we've talked about here, it could be somebody different every week, but whatever your role is, your opportunity this week, you got to make the most of it. Otherwise, you might not get the same opportunities the next week.
Speaking of somebody different, that first touchdown drive, you had 4 different receivers touch the ball, both running backs touch the ball, so there were 6 players that touched the ball in all. It seemed like there was a lot more mixing matching than we'd seen previous weeks. Was there an intentionality there, either on your part, the offense as a whole, to try to get everybody involved? Is that maybe the way to go going forward?
Well, I think there's always the intention of getting guys going, but it takes converting on 3rd downs and giving yourself more opportunities. The beauty, I think, in the plan last week was the way that Matt kind of framed everything out, with a lot of plays looking very similar. If you look at the touchdown run I just mentioned that Aaron had, that's basically off of plays we had run earlier in the game. We ran that motion with Tyler. We tossed it to him. We ran the motion with Tyler. We faked it and action passed. We ran the motion with Tyler. We handed the ball inside, same side, and we ran the motion with Tyler. And we ran the ball back to the other side. So just giving the defense so many different looks play-wise off of the same initial look and motion, I think really stresses them. And I think that it was that creativity yet simplicity that we had in the plan last week that allowed us to kind of get some other guys involved. And that's why, at times we move the ball fairly efficiently.
Aaron, this isn't about individual accolades in this locker room, but to get Aaron Jones 20 touchdowns, what would that mean?
That'd be awesome. It'd be pretty cool. Obviously we'd love to get him 1,000. Because I think he's earned it. He ran really hard all year and been a big part of our success. 20 touchdowns would be fantastic. I don't know the last time. Tom probably does when a back had 20, but that's. Thank you, Tom. But that's a pretty big number for running back, especially in this day and age where you're seeing less kind of feature backs and less guys have 1,000 yards. I mean, I don't know how many. Tom might know how many in the league are on pace or have 1,000 already, but I would guess it's not a big number.
You talked about, Aaron, how much you guys can gain by winning on Sunday. Matt LaFleur called it a playoff game. It's probably going to be kind of a drab atmosphere, though. The Lions are on this losing streak. How do you make sure when you guys show up that you're on point Sunday?
Well, you got to check yourself and realize that we're playing a team they're still getting paid. There's a lot of pride. I don't know who's going to play for them specifically, but it's the NFL, and it's important that we approach this game understanding how much we have to gain by winning. And the great teams, like I've said over the years, the great teams win these games. And if we want to be that great team that gets an opportunity to be in the mix for the 1 seed, for sure gets a bye, gets a chance to relax for a week and get ready for an opponent, these are the kind of games you win.
We know ball security is a big emphasis, obviously, every week, but when the team has a first half like it did in
Minnesota. Is there any different way that the message is delivered this week in the meetings on the field, anything like that?
No, not really. I just think you're going to get what you emphasize a lot of times, and we always emphasize the ball, but we might need to do some more of those drills where we're getting guys punching at it and making sure our look team is getting after the ball, because we can't expect our defense to shut them down like that, and it's just a tough start. I fumbled against San Fran. They took it in for 7, and you're on the road in a tough environment down 7. Luckily, thanks to our defense, we fumbled, on the first drive, and we held them to a field goal, which is a totally different game, 7-0 to 3-0. But it puts a lot of stress on the defense when you turn the ball over, especially 3 times in the first half.
Aaron, you've had some huge numbers statistically this year, and this year is not one of them. You don't seem to care at all, though. Is that a pretty fair assessment? Is it taking you any change at all over the years to maybe get to this point where you don't have to do X, Y, or Z?
Well, I care. I definitely care. But I think the level of success and the way that I feel I'm playing is different in this offense this year. I don't need to throw 40 touchdowns for us to win. I need to be great on my checks. I need to be as efficient as possible. I need to take care of the football. And, I felt like last game was one of my better games of the season. And you'd look at the stats and go, okay, you're 25 of 40 for 200 something, no touchdowns. What are you talking about? Are you really lowering the bar for yourself that much? And I said, no, I'm never lowering the bar for myself. The expectations are for greatness, but my responsibility was to get us in checks, and my responsibility was to get us in the right protection scheme and to take care of the football. And although I threw a pick, I felt like that what I needed to do in that game, I was executing at a winning level. But I mean, any quarterback wants to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns a week. It's just not. That hasn't been the case this year. We haven't needed it to win 12 games.
Is a 28 or 30-year-old version of you had that same thinking, that you're satisfied with the stuff that doesn't show up in the game book?
Well, we had a different team, Bill. I think we had a different team back then. We had that group on that Sports Illustrated page, and we didn't. We had a stretch. You guys know during that time we had almost 50 games without a 100-yard rusher. So our focus, our plan of attack with Mike during that time was, hey, we're going to be aggressive throwing the ball. We're going to throw it 40 times a game. There were years there where I was throwing it 600 times, damn near every year, and that's what we need to do to win. This year, we've done it a different way.